Well, maybe 85 to 90% of the critiques I've received about this first start, the intro to the Deep End Fantasy Football Podcast, is it's so forced. The metaphors, the lead-ins, everything is so forced, and then you play that shark thing that's really cool, and you come back and like, did that even really happen? It's the Scott Fish Bowl right now, and there's nothing forced about the aquatic symmetry, the deep end, the Scott Fish Bowl made for each other. Let's talk about even live picks, draft strategy, the so-called beginning of the fantasy football season, and much more here on the Deep End. I mean, everything it's still forced, Adam. I mean, it's a little bit, try to come up with something clever and hope that you get discovered is really all that this is every single time. But we're off and running. Swimming.
You're doing a great job with the intro. Oh. Don't worry about it. The intro is phenomenal. But yeah, before we get started, I want to talk about the Draft Sharks Discord that just went live yesterday. I don't know if you heard about that, Mike, but I did. It's been in all the papers. It's been in all the news. Read all about it. It's been really cool though to be able to get, it's like the old school, chat room or whatever they used to have on the old websites, right? This new Discord thing, it's for the kids. So, but yeah, to be able to get all the Draft Sharks guys in there, all the staff, all the analysts. Which shout out to Jared Small today. I think he came second in Fantasy Pros projections last year. Just came out today. So you get
stalwart. He was described as a projection stalwart.
Well, he's a stalwart in the industry for sure.
That's what comes when you sort of nail it at least two times.
Is that it?
I think that's all it takes is two.
Okay.
You become you're familiar to your readers as somebody. I'm used to seeing this person on this list. Even more reason to trust them. It was not a fluke. You see him once, maybe that was a fluke. More than once, stalwart.
No, definitely not a fluke. So he's a great guy to have in that Discord. And not only are the analysts in there, but we got guys like Dr. Abib Agbatoba in there, back-to-back football guys, champion. We got the guilds in there. We got Todd from PA in there talking best ball. So I'm in there kind of mulling around. So it's just great to have some high stakes guys in there, guys that play 300 plus leagues, which is Todd in there with the analysts. I don't think there's another Discord like it, and I'm in a couple of them. So it's been super fun to see everyone kind of in there chatting, kind of like an iron sharpening iron kind of deal.
Well, that Dr. Abib, I mean, a lot of people say different, but I'm going to need to see 3 in a row.
Sure. Yep. That's like the Tom Brady thing. You did it twice, but I didn't need to see it again.
A lot of guys have done it. Well, nobody has actually probably done that twice, but I feel like one more is called for.
Sure.
Before full credibility status is achieved.
I just want to win one before he wins another one. So that's all I ask.
All right, I'm going to go with that too. Let me just win one of those before he wins a third straight.
Sure, that's right.
So what is a good result? So you don't need to win. You don't need to win any league to feel like that's a good result. What is a good result in the Football Guys Championship?
Honestly, to me, like if I'm competing for $500,000, I'm in the Football Guys to win the $500,000. So if I don't win the $500,000, but I break even, I'm okay with that. There are other leagues because the payouts are really so top heavy in the Football Guys, right? It's $500,000 to first. I think they just may have raised second to 100,000, or that might have been the main event. I can't remember, but the payouts are so tournament top heavy. To win your Football Guys league, it's $1,500. So it's $350. You win $1,500. Second place is $500, but there's no other payouts for the league. So if I'm in 20 of those, and I can win, I win half of them or whatever. If I can just break even, if I don't win the $500,000, I'm okay with that because it just rebuys me into the next year shooting for that $500,000.
But let's say you're not Adam Krautwurst and you're not in 20.
Sure.
Let's say you play 1 and you win your league, but then go right out. That's a very good result.
Sure. Yeah, you doubled your money. Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. Yep. No,
right?
that's
1,500 from 350, right? You 4 times.
Yep, exactly. Now,
So that's got to be a good. Is second in your league a good result in a singular given league? Is that a good result? 350 to 500. If I'm at the blackjack table, that's a good night. That's a good
yes.
result.
Anytime you're making money, great result. Especially in the football guys where there's a lot of sharks. So if you can win a league, with all those guys in it, of course, yeah, it's a now I don't know what type of psychopath is going to play one football guys league, right? I mean, if you play 3, you get a $50 discount. So I don't even know why you're stopping it at the even numbers. That doesn't make any sense,
Well, that's fine, but it's a lot of money. This is the high stakes. This is the deep end. I mean, there's
That's
not what perch swimming around in the deep the deep end. It's much deeper than that. There are sea urchins and very serious creatures. A lot of it has yet to be explored. There's volcanoes down here that have never been seen by humankind.
He's seen the volcanoes. He's seen them.
Well, 2 in a row will get you into that Discord. We know that. 1. All right. So not only we're both in fishbowl, but we're both up. Now, you and your sad police division are in the 4th round. That's gotta really sting. Like you're watching all the different action. Everybody's drafting 10, 11, 12. You're in the 4th round, but it'll drag on a little bit. And you know what? A smart player thinks that's more information. If you're processing all the ADP information in that, you're a little bit ahead by being behind.
Yes. It's you've known me long enough, Mike. I'm not a slow draft guy. I like the rush of the live drafts, these slow draft. And then when you're in these slow drafts with all these people and you got to be nice and you can't say, hey guys, Mike Shope is in the 6th round and we're in the 1st round. Like what is going on here? So I don't want to say, so I gotta bite my tongue and hold it in, but yeah, we're into the late 4th, third round reversal, right? So I wanted to go quarterback, right? Because super flex, there's all these different strategies. We use a lot of this for the Draft Sharks Invitational podcast, but it's super flex. Anytime I get a chance to build a strategy around the quarterback position, I'm going to do it. Quarterbacks get a lot of points in these leagues. The better the quarterback, the better the points. It's a little bit complicated how the scoring works, and tight ends, right? So I wanted to build my team around quarterbacks and tight ends early. So unfortunately, mine was one of the leagues where quarterbacks went crazy early. I mean, Brady went 4th overall. So I had to reach for Russell Wilson. It's kind of my last. Wilson and Herbert were kind of the last 2 guys that I would have looked at that early. I got to pick. I'm pick 9. I got to pick 6, and I'm like, okay, as long as they don't go Murray, Jackson, Prescott, I'm going to get one of them. And of course, they went Murray, Jackson, Prescott. So I took Russell Wilson, came back around. I'm huge on Stafford this year. Mm-hmm. I thought about Kittle for a second, but I'm not high on Kittle. Injuries, rookie quarterback, all that new stuff. I wanted to wait a little bit on that, hoping to get Hockenson in the 3rd. Well, fast forward, Hockenson goes early 3rd, right? So I'm sorry. I was hoping to get him in the 4th. He ends up going late 3rd. And so I ended up going Mixon in the 3rd round, who I like a lot this year. I would have gone Eckler, but Eckler got taken right in front of me. But yeah, so
you got sniped twice.
I did. I got sniped on Eckler, which wasn't the worst thing, but getting sniped back to back quarterbacks there, especially when I'm seeing other, people on Twitter are posting their stuff, and like some guy at the 9 spot got Lamar Jackson and Herbert coming back in the 2nd. I'm like, man, I'm so jealous of that. And
somebody got Josh Allen and Kyler Murray.
Yeah, it's fun because that's what we've always talked about with the Draft Sharks Invitational is with the super flex and tight end premium, you can build so many different ways. But when you're playing with people who, you've got celebrities, you've got average Joes, you've got high stakes guys, you don't know how these drafts are going to go. So literally, like I told someone, I think I was talking to Jared Smola yesterday. I'm like, yeah, I took Stafford in the 2nd. He's like, man, I just passed on Stafford in the 4th. So it's like, man, all these different drafts going crazy ways. So here we are, fourth round. I really want to go tight end here because the tight ends get double points for catches. They get double points for first downs, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning Mark Andrews here, Mike. What do you think?
100%. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
I think with the combination of the format and how, I mean, every episode, every show is telling you wide receiver, pound it, but wait, at least until round 2 in an average league, but we're getting to that point. There's so much waiting there. You know it from experience, and I think so do I. I think Andrews is right. I went Andrews at tight end 4 or 5. We'll get to mine. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I did that at 312 because I decided tight end needed to be paid up for. It was worth it. And I don't want to be in that Engram Gesicki Fant range.
Yeah.
So you make your choices, right? You have your favorites, and then you also want to play against what's happening around you. And so I think you're better off with a tight end here by far than any other position. I mean, the best wide receiver is going to look very good. It helps you that Jefferson and Brown just went because it would have been either of them. But I love Andrews here, and as long as you're fine with the player, I am. I mean, he's good, young. I know this is not a dynasty, but even with what Baltimore built around him, I think Andrews is very nice here.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic to get Andrews here. Because the tight end scoring, it's even more premium in the FFPC because it's double what everyone else is getting. So I'm ecstatic. Because I didn't want Pitts. I would have loved Hawkinson, but I'm super happy with Andrews. So I think that's the route that I am going to go.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. So I'll do that I can't. I'll do that in a minute.
Go ahead. No, go. I want to see it light up.
All right, I love it. So where do I go? Where do I go? Four
owners, draft.
There we go. We got it. All right, we'll go tight ends.
That's what I do. You could go alphabetical. You could go Baltimore, but I go position for this.
I like that.
Definitely worth a poll.
Is that a thing, Mike? I always go position. Is
Me too. No, I don't know if that's what everybody does, but that's what I do. To sort of narrow that list, I would do the same thing you just did.
Love it.
This has not been rehearsed.
Live. Mark Andrews. Love that Mark Andrews pick.
Okay.
That.
So who do you know in your league before we leave you?
I don't
draft right there. Draft.
Yeah, Scott Atkinson. I think I might know a little bit. Let me see where he is. He is Scott Atkins. I'm sorry, at Scott Fantasy, full time for fantasy. Okay. So I've spoken to him a little bit. So Scott's the only one I know a little bit, but other than that, I don't really know anybody else. We do have a celebrity, Scott Porter, in our league. I don't know. He's been on some TV shows. I think he's filming right now in the deep woods of Connecticut. So he's been unavailable sometimes for some picks. But other than that, I don't really know a lot of guys in my league, men or women.
I don't think I do either.
Yeah.
But at some point we'll have to call one of them.
Let's do it. Get him on. Get him on the show.
All right, my turn.
Your turn. This
is convenient because Radiohead and Police are in the same conference.
Super convenient.
And I'm the one with the really long name since I got to know Adam and Draft Sharks. So you see Draft Sharks, Deep End, da. And so I went 101 Mahomes. That was pretty easy for me. Yeah. I was worried that quarterbacks, like you sort of laid it out for me, quarterbacks are just almost everything. And I didn't want to risk getting stuck. And I think if you look at the first 2 rounds, I would say I was correct, or I was lucky, because it goes as far as to say that 15 of the first 30 picks. So in round 3, you're going right to left. We're quarterbacks. Look at all the pink.
Yeah.
Now, Brady lasted longer in this than in yours. He went to 203.
Yeah.
But other guys like Herbert and Wilson and Tannehill and Stafford, Burrow was round 3 in yours, I noticed.
Yes.
Those guys are all gone. And so when I got to 212, I thought my value was better served with running back there than quarterback. So Nick Chubb. It was close. Nick Chubb is a little obvious.
Yeah.
But at that early stage, I was fine with that. So then we go to 312. That's Andrews. We went over it. That was tight end 4.
Tight end 4.
And I just like a lot of the sort of the nuggets, the bullet points on Andrews, and I wanted to be there. Then Najee Harris for some variety. You get into these drafts, and sometimes you're playing against your dynasty teams. I was close on Gibson. I went Harris over Gibson and Edwards-Helaire. I also passed on Tyreek Hill at him at 212. Would you have taken Mahomes Hill to start over the running back?
I was going to say that. No, I wouldn't have, because the receivers are the most devalued position in this, I think, in this whole format. So it looks nice. The stack is sexy, but if you really want to get that stack, you can get that in almost any league. Where it's more valuable. So I don't think you necessarily have to do it here. My question is, did you consider, were you okay with, like, if you didn't go Mahomes, let's say you went McCaffrey, would you have been okay with the way quarterback turned out for you?
No, I would have felt like I got burned, because that would have been, maybe Cousins. I like Derek Carr way earlier than he went, but that would have been, I would have had to go 2 there, I think.
Well, I'm wondering, like, if I think if the guy took Mahomes at 2, he wouldn't have taken Stafford. So, if you would have been okay with CMC Stafford or Mahomes Chubb. I like Mahomes Chubb for sure.
Yeah, that's close. That is a good point. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what anybody's going to do.
Right.
So I just know that I felt with all the quarterbacks that were going, I was relieved that I didn't have to pick one at 212. Right. That was really part of the objective.
Exactly.
So I get to 312. That was Andrews. That was a choice. Andrews over Pitts and Hockenson, fine. And then Harris was also, like, to me, Gibson and Mixon and Edwards-Helaire were in the same range, fine. Yep. 512 is coming. I was playing a board game with my wife and son last night, watching 5 come through, and the guy I wanted the whole time was Lance. I was like on the finger on the button for Lance at 401. I'm in the Discord with the guys drafting 101, and somebody else had picked Lance at 601. I'm like, there's no way in this group that's going to make it. But I decided to risk it and pick Harris. And so the whole time I'm like just rooting against quarterback picks. Yep. And there it goes, 510 Robinson. I'm going to make it. The guy, James Harris, credit to him, he picked Lance in like 2 minutes. You get 8 hours plus the overnight, 2 minutes.
Yep.
And so he might have been thinking the same way. Good for him. And then I thought after that, I was kind of just distraught, but I'm going to risk it again. I'm going to not rush to like a Mayfield or somebody, and I'll take my chances at 712. And that, I think, worked.
So who do we got? It's hard for me to who. I don't have the available in front of me. Yep. Who are you thinking?
I think the right pick here is Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
I think for a quarterback, he is the one. There's Darnold, and I have DJ Moore. I could get there.
Yep.
But I thought that if it fell this way, I would pick Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, I think that there is an argument for picking 2.
Sure.
But the one reason why I don't like that is Mahomes, and I feel like this is, again, something I think I've mentioned it with you, Michael Leone, who is in Empire Niagara with us. He's got that point. Like, if you want to win these things, you've got to trust your early picks to smash.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think that if Mahomes does, I won't mind that I don't have a third.
Right. Yeah, no, I think you might want to take a third, just maybe not right now. Like, maybe you can, like, if you take Fitzpatrick, maybe you handcuff Fitzpatrick or you handcuff Mahomes just so you've got that second quarterback in case of an injury, and you can get them way later. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
be able.
There's bye weeks too, but
yeah.
Like, what do you think of Darnold? Like, Fitzpatrick is my preference. Yeah. What do you think of Darnold because of Moore? Like, I didn't do that with Mahomes and Hill. And I wonder if the Carolina combo is, such that I should try that instead.
Yeah, I would lean Darnold, only because I like Darnold more than Fitzpatrick, even regardless of stack, and that's only because, like, I still don't think he's I still don't know. I don't know that he's terrible yet. Like the Adam Gase factor. I mean, Tannehill
That's
was
right.
dead. Tannehill was dead. And now he's a Pro Bowler, I mean, the list goes on and on of players that Adam Gase has touched and ruined, tried to ruin their career. So, like, part of me thinks Darnold's got some love, and the weapons there, my goodness. CMC, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. I mean, the list goes on and on. So to me, if I had to pick between those two, I would lean the Carolina connection there, but I also don't know. I got to admit, I don't know like the huge details about the quarterback scoring. I know like getting sacked is a negative, and interceptions is obviously a negative, and all that completion percentage and all that. So
at this stage, that's the risk of what I've done. I mean, incompletions are costly. Interceptions are very costly. You should see. We have to do an entire week's worth of shows on my team last year in this. And the quarterbacks I went through, Joe Flacco, Luton. Like I had Breeze who got hurt, and it was a playoff team somehow, but I was always scrambling. That didn't matter to me this year because you don't want to do that. You don't want to consider like recent experience and overrate it in your brain.
Yeah.
So I think the Washington surrounding talent is just as good as Carolina's.
Sure.
But they're also both very susceptible to really bad days.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you have Daniel Jones here. You might have, I think, Roethlisberger here. There are options. And I do have until about noon tomorrow.
Yeah, Daniel Jones is a turnover machine. I don't know. Again, I like him for normal as a late round quarterback too, but for this Scott Fishbowl where they just kill you for sacks and turnovers, that would be tough for me. But again, a lot of surrounding talent. Also, I forget too, when I said add a third, there's waivers in these leagues too. So you didn't even necessarily have to add a third. So let me take that back. Yeah, if you don't necessarily need to add a third. So
no, I think Mahomes gives you that kind of freedom in drafts where you don't have to do much there. So let me just do this.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that one other thought in my mind, you want to refresh that? Maybe if you can. Is
Fitzpatrick locked in. I love it.
Fantasy Mojo. So Darren did a top 300 at his site, combining projections with ADP, and Fitzpatrick came in quite high for that. And I didn't look, but his ADP has got to be lower than some of the other guys we're talking about in that range. And if that's true, then Darren's numbers were very flattering on Fitzpatrick. So I'm going to bet on him and my guy Curtis Samuel and McLaurin and Scott Turner and Gibson and the whole thing. And at least I can not worry for another 2 rounds about who the quarterback 2 is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's where I don't have. This is my first Scott Fishbowl. I don't have all the intricacies down. I just listened to some podcasts. I listened to actually Scott Fish basically talk about how the quarterbacks are valued very highly, and the tight ends are this year, especially. They changed some rules that made them even more valuable. So I know those were the positions that I was going to try to target early, and just go with the guys that I like.
And since you mentioned Scott, like let's just say everybody is, but it's still right to point out fantasycares.net. The podathon was incredible. We would normally go on Mondays, but there was no way we wanted to step on Sal and those guys who were doing that work. All the biggest names in the industry stopping by, except for Adam, and doing. He was unavailable. I know you were unavailable, but
I told him we had the pod, so I couldn't go on.
Couldn't come on. Just a fabulous. Just what an incredible thing the whole thing is, and the work they're doing and all the fundraising that's been done. So fantasycares.net is the site. And just can't say enough about Scott and his guys for pulling this off. Just what a miraculous and incredible thing they've done.
Yeah, and I actually met Scott at the FSGA in Dallas a couple weeks ago. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Actually won the Matthew Berry Game Changer Award there. A bunch of guys did a video for him, thanking him for everything. It was a kind of an emotional video. It was excellent stuff. Scott's awesome, and Fantasy Cares for sure.
So, Adam, just quickly before we move on to a couple other subjects, this pick for me is easily a wide receiver.
Okay.
I've sped up on Andrews, and I've got 3 running backs here. Dobbins will be very interesting as running back 3. I think I can relax on that position for a while, which is a really good feeling.
Yep.
And so wide receiver is where I'm softest, but this is when you can pounce. And there are some really good names. Now, my number one name right here would be Claypool.
Okay.
You've got tremendous upside. I'm not on Roethlisberger. I could have done that too. Could also do Curtis Samuel here to pair up with Fitzpatrick. But Claypool is, to me, somebody that is really exciting in this spot. There are lots of choices. Higgins is another one.
Ooh.
He's probably maybe the chalkiest.
Yep.
Galladay.
No, yeah. From the names you've said, it's definitely Higgins, Claypool. Both of them are in crowded receiving course. Okay, so what are your thoughts on Claypool? We haven't talked much about Claypool yet. I lean Higgins because of just the quarterback situation. I think the offense will be a little bit more explosive. So what are your Claypool thoughts just in general?
Well, depth of target. What I'm trying to do in all these drafts is I think job one is what is the consensus opinion about a player or a situation, and then try to bet against that. For example, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
In this fishbowl draft, I think Aaron Rodgers vaults above many other quarterbacks on the condition that he show up. And so all you need there is for him to show up, and then you're getting value. And I think if you consume a lot of content and you read a lot and listen a lot, plus you see ADPs, you're going to really have a sort of a good intuition for where guys, quote unquote, should go.
Yeah.
And then you try to figure out if there's a flaw, if there's a hole in that. And that's it's not quite to say that Rodgers threatening a holdout is a hole. Everybody knows that. But if Rodgers walked through the door, he would be much higher in this. And I think one of those things, it's different, but one of those things is that I think that the maybe even overwhelming consensus is that Roethlisberger is shot.
Sure.
So there's a but at the end of this, but Najee Harris in the first round, is Pittsburgh going to be different? Is Juju even good? Does Mike Tomlin trust Johnson with all the drop history and everything? Claypool is somebody that hasn't really fallen victim to any of those sort of narratives yet. That's why I end up on him, because all the other math has been done. Everybody else has done all the other math, and he comes in. The Pittsburgh guys all come in about equally.
Yeah.
The but is that Harris is on my team. And do I want that sort of grouping? And that's where I feel like I'm a little bit less knowledgeable than I want to be. I'm exposing that, revealing that when it comes to talk of the stacks with Carolina and Pittsburgh and Washington. I avoided Tyreek Hill. I don't exactly know what I want to be in terms of that. But I think it's at least questionable whether you want Najee Harris. To win the Scott Fish Bowl, is there any chance Najee Harris is going to be amazing and Claypool is?
Right.
So I feel like that with so many guys in the same tier is that I would end up passing.
Yeah, I think for them to both be amazing, I think Ben's got to be healthy all year. For them to both be amazing. That is why I kind of lean Higgins here, is just because since he was really good last year as a rookie. Burrow obviously coming off that injury, but all signs point to go. Young, improved offensive line. The question mark there is, what's Chase going to do to his production? Is Higgins going to get better as a receiver? To me, they're both, and this is the pockets of the draft, and these are the pockets of receivers where they're kind of in the same tier for me. So if I'm doing multiple leagues, it's easier to say, okay, I'll take Claypool here and Higgins here and whatever. But in something like the Scott Fish Bowl, you really want to, it forces you to narrow it down, right? So I would lean Higgins because I just think it's a slightly better situation. Again, it's almost a coin flip. And because you have Najee Harris, can they both be really good? You're really betting on Ben Roethlisberger at that point.
Well, there's one more guy that I think belongs in this conversation, but he has a teammate I like more, and I'm going to try to get him at 8-12, or rather, what is it? The next term. We'll leave it at that for now.
Well, I hope it wasn't Kenny Galladay, because that was an insta call Kenny Galladay right there.
It is not. It is not.
For James Harris. So.
All right, so I'm very happy with that. Like Fitzpatrick could have been someone else.
Yep.
I mean, Higgins is good. Yeah,
I like Higgins a lot for sure.
But I mean, there's a long way to go.
Yep. No, I like it. Is this your second Scott Fishbowl?
Third.
Ooh, look at you, a veteran.
Yep. 2 playoff teams. Adam, last year's team was that should have been on the news. There were just like Breeze. So I wanted to pick Breeze early. Completion percentage is so heavily weighted. I decided to, I guess that guys wouldn't all see it that way. So I went Derrick Henry and then Breeze.
Okay.
I mean, with the season Derrick Henry had, holy cow. I think I've had him on both Fishbowl teams. But everything about my team was really good, except quarterback was a disaster. Flacco started for me. Jake Luton. PJ Walker started a week for me. Glennon started a week for me on this team. Like, I went through, it was such a scramble, and I sort of lucked into a playoff spot and then got destroyed like I deserved. But I mean, the Breeze injury set me back, but he's old. Like, that should happen, and that's how I'm approaching Brady this year. Like, I still feel like the odds are against him having a super year. Like, he's 10 years younger than he is. 44 is madness. I mean, it's a curve, and people are looking at him now like he's had the 1 year in Tampa. Like, that's sort of the base, and I'm enjoying betting against that. I did pick him on a football guy's team, but I just can't. I mean, the odds are not – I'm an odds player. The odds aren't great.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm not going to bet against him until it's one of those things where it's like, and again, you don't have to – I mean, the guy in my draft took him at the 104, but, in regular drafts, you don't have to bet the house on him. You can bet on Tom Brady, be wrong, and it doesn't really kill you because he's a 10th round or 11th round pick or something. So
yeah, right.
I'm just so used to him. My whole life, he's been playing football for 25 years. I'm 37, so my whole life he's just been Tom Brady. So
I'm getting near the age where I can sort of talk like an old man about how I went to see him play in college. I went to a Michigan-Syracuse game at the Carrier Dome, and like Brady was in. It was just not like any other week. And it was Michigan. The cool thing there was it was Michigan.
Brady actually played, wasn't he? Splitting reps in college.
He played that night.
Gosh.
Yeah. And then I went to that Super Bowl working in Buffalo radio, Patriots Rams. And I went to visit a friend of mine who was working for ESPN at the hotel, and the players were at the hotel. I think maybe not both teams. The Patriots were at the hotel.
Okay.
And so I'm walking through New Orleans after I got off the shuttle or whatever, and I'm walking to the hotel, and there's a guy standing in front of the hotel on his phone, no one around him. And I got in the hotel, and my friend met me, and I looked back, and it was Brady standing there by himself in front of the Hilton or whatever hotel that was. Like, that didn't mean much to me until years later when he won all the time. Like, he was just, the week of the Super Bowl standing in front of the hotel. We were on the air. Everybody on Radio Row that week was on the air talking about whether he should start.
Yep.
Because Bledsoe had replaced him in Pittsburgh and they'd won, and Bledsoe had the experience. And 20 years ago, I think that carried a lot more weight. Some it still does. And I was on Bledsoe should start. And then Brady started. They won a game on a field goal. I grew up with the Bills, how they could have won a Super Bowl on a field goal, but they missed. And then Bledsoe came to the Bills the next year, and I thought we were all set.
Yeah. Well, the offense was spectacular. It was the defense, at least the first year, that was
That's right. The first year. All right, so that was really cool. We went more than half an hour, except for the part on the fish. And now we're going into the football guys championships here a little bit. I'm not you. I played in my second one. You were in the first one, but I did a second one.
Yep. Yep.
And maybe you can tell me how I did.
Yeah, where is it? Here it is. So you were picked 10? Oh, I love it. Speaking of the Tyreek Hill Mahomes stack. Oh my God.
Right.
I forgot all about that. Right on cue. And Nick Chubb there too, of course.
Oh yeah, it's the same team, I guess.
That's the same team. So let's see. Yeah, Tyreek Hill, love it. Love Tyreek Hill as the wide receiver 1, 10 overall. I would definitely would have taken him there for sure. Coming back around, Nick Chubb, did you have your heart set on Kittle or anybody else there?
No.
Okay.
I like the next group of tight ends. I didn't get one, but I have not yet been brave enough to go 2 rounds without a running back. Like if I take Tyreek Hill, I'm definitely taking one of those guys. Look how good they are too.
Sure. No, I know.
So I'm not really gambling too much.
Especially when it comes back around. Like if you didn't, you would have been stuck with David Montgomery as your first, or Miles Sanders or something like that. So, yeah, no, I like it. Chubb coming back.
Can I say, like, I think there is a skill in identifying which guys, like we talked to Pete Overzet a couple times last year, that ship chasing show they do is so excellent. You know, they're really pounding this point that you can get the running backs later. And I want to, a year later, I want to trust myself to do well at that. Like eventually you get to Joshua Kelly, who seemingly no one likes, but he's going to be on that team, and it's still just Eckler, and he had a good profile coming in. So he's one of these guys. I know Pat Crane on that show talks about Stevenson a lot.
Yep.
I can live like this. I just didn't want to go without anybody at the top of the charts. And I want, to think Nick Chubb will have a big year, and then I'll be able to piece together the rest of it.
Yeah, no, Nick Chubb will be fine. And also, by the way, this draft is, I pulled this up on fantasymojo.com. Darren Armani, great site. I think we shout him out every week because we're always on his site, and he's got all the drafts on here, so you can go look it up. And
but he led me to Fitzpatrick in the fishbowl.
There you go, perfect. And yeah, so you came back and got Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, much cheaper than it went last year, I think, or a little bit cheaper than people were able to get it last year. You didn't want to risk Mahomes. Now, you were targeting that stack after to Tyreek Hill, and you didn't want to let Mahomes drop to the 4th. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, but what happened was, and I think you know this feeling, you get into look at how late the quarterbacks went in this thing.
I know.
Allen in 5, Murray in 6. You get to that 6, 7, 8 range, and you feel like, couldn't I have just settled for Dak Prescott and added Keenan Allen or somebody instead? Like there's always, with the quarterbacks, there's always that point, even when you do this. So on this team, I thought Mahomes and Hill will play it like that. But when I got to rounds 5 and 6, I'm like, wow, this could have been really good. Jackson in 6, like Jackson is my guy, right? So that was available to me.
Yeah, exactly. And imagine grabbing like and I'm trying to think, I don't know, like a Terry McLaurin instead there, and then getting your guy Jackson, and how much, then you'd be starting Tyreek, Terry, Scary Terry, CD, and Thielen. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's nice to get that stack on at least one of your teams, though, the Mahomes Hill stack. But yeah, like you said, you look down and Justin Fields is there in the 13th round, and it's like, man, he could have been my QB2. I could have got Stafford and Fields, and no, I totally get it. So I love the CD Lamb pick in the 4th. He doesn't, he usually goes. He's been going before Cooper. Usually it's the Cooper and Lamb are swapped there. Usually it's Lamb in the 3rd, Cooper in the 4th. So it was really cool. You're able to get Lamb there. And one of the reasons why I like Lamb is because, in those championship weeks, they've got that one game against Arizona, I think, where it's going to be an absolute shootout. And I know this might be a little detailed, and you don't want to get this specific, but Patrick Peterson's a really good corner, and he follows the number 1 receiver of other teams. So I think in that shootout, he's going to follow Amari Cooper around. And if you're playing to win $500,000, you really got to ball out in those last couple weeks. And to have CeeDee Lamb be able to go, not have Patrick Peterson trailing him in a shootout, I think is going to be huge. A Lamb Gallup. Oh, you got Gallup. I love it. Got Gallup at round 9. I think that's going to be a sensational little stack for you for those playoff weeks if you can get there.
I hope so too. And then Mecole Hardman.
Oh yeah, baby.
I think that's promising. I think even Traquan Smith later on is promising. Those are both going to be wide receiver 2 on teams, and Bateman might be one.
Who? I'm sorry. Oh, Bateman. Absolutely. Yeah. Did you see today the news that Hardman's taking Sammy Watkins' role?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's.
I've always liked. I think there's a lot to like about Hardman. You trust the Chiefs. I think most people trust that organization. And at wide receiver, they didn't push. There was the story they tried on Juju.
Yep.
But ultimately, or even maybe Galladay too. But they ended up on Hardman. There's always been a lot. You want to not forget a year is so short. Yes. And there's so much randomness and injuries and politics and different things. You want to not forget how you felt, how you built your opinion in the first place on guys.
Yep.
And that's Hardman for me. That's Joshua Kelly for me. It's not Traquan Smith, but that's a different situation. I mean, that could still go well because of opportunity. So you want to make sure you don't lose. Eventually, you have to either you give up or you just get beat. But it's good to not lose sight of how much randomness there is in a season or two even, and still trust what you think you know.
Yeah, and not only that, but there's also like Mecole Hardman, for example. Oh, he's the handcuff to Tyreek Hill because that's what he's been. Oh, he's a one-trick pony speed. Like Mecole Hardman, they didn't add, like you said, they didn't add anything in the offseason. Mecole Hardman it's only his 3rd year. Like people expect like all these receivers to always break out in their first year. He's playing with Mahomes. He should have been better. It's like it's not how it works for all these guys. I remember back in the day when it was always like the 3rd year breakout for receivers, or it was like the 27-year age for receiver. Like, give the guy a chance. He could get better. Mecole Hardman could get better. And now maybe he's showing the coaching staff that he's getting better, and they're going to give him that number 2 role where he's not just behind Tyreek Hill when Hill gets hurt. Like if he can come in and show he can run the route tree, and I mean if he can get 90 targets in that offense, man, that's such a great pick in the 10th round. And I mean, you're going to start seeing tomorrow, maybe even tonight, in the football guys. He's going to start going in round 8 now because people are going to see 90 to 100 target potential for a guy that's explosive. I mean, usually the plays he had even against the Bills in the playoffs last year, just one touch and it's over. So. Yeah.
After he dropped a punt for the 9-0 lead,
yes,
and they still stuck with him, and he had success. So I agree.
Yes. No, I like this team a lot. I love the construction. You needed to get your one back early, which is great. Kind of your anchor back there, Damian Harris. Their beat reporters out of New England are saying he's the no doubt about it number 1. But you got Stevenson just in case. Love that.
Adam, what do you think of that? I'm waiting to ask you. So I have Harris and Stevenson, then I have Kelly and Justin Jackson. I mean, I think a key thought on these football guys teams is you're going to cut people.
Yes.
So maybe you get in a week or two and there's some running back nobody drafted, like a James Robinson last year, somebody.
Of course.
And so who goes? You have to cut somebody. You're not cutting your kicker. You're not cutting you're probably not cutting your backup quarterback. And I drafted receivers to play them.
Yes. No, I completely agree. So when you take those two, you're going to cut people. And that's what people forget. Like, oh, every pick's got to be – it's like, no, we're going to be cutting guys. We're going to be working the roster over. There's every year always running backs coming off the waiver wire, always. So you got Kelly, especially in a draft that was done in late June, right? I mean, if Eckler goes down in the preseason, you've got Kelly and Justin Jackson. Like, or if one of them goes down in the preseason, now you've got the no doubt about it handcuff. If Steven,
and the no doubt about it cut. That's right.
Correct.
That's right.
Yeah,
That'll
exactly.
make it easier. If your team's pretty well balanced and good, it can be tough to know who to divest of. But still, like I've tried to think about that a lot in this draft. Is there will be somebody that you're going to want in the first couple of weeks of waivers. There always is.
100%. Yeah, no, that's a great way to look at it. It's a great way to build the team, and I just love all of the different, you can just look at your roster and see the thought process behind everything. Traquan, the number 2 receiver there. Bateman might be the number 1. Hardman, especially now with with him being possibly he'd be the number 3 target there. But Gallup, upside. The problem with the guy like Gallup is what the heck week am I going to start him, right? Because he's going to have blow up weeks, and then he's going to have. But again, you're not going to pass on him in round 9. He's a stud. Visca's the big one, right? So Visca is a guy that, like you said, the ship chasing guys love those guys over there. They love Visca, and they basically say, why can't he be the number 1 receiver there? DJ Chark, who I do really like, had a great second year, a really down kind of third year, and coming back here, we got a new coaching staff, new quarterback. Like, why can't it be Visca? Maybe it is. So, but again, a guy like Visca, he's not even in your starting lineup. So if he is the starter, man, you're looking great. If he's not, it doesn't kill you. So.
Do you like Higbee? There's starting to be some in my fishbowl group. Scott Pianowski picked Higbee at 7-1, I believe.
Okay.
I think there's starting to be some real love for him.
Yeah, Higbee. I was all over Higbee last year. I planted my flag on Higbee early, and I just got burned, and not really by Higbee. It was more by the coaching staff. Like, that's the hardest thing, is what are the coaches going to do? And I thought after the run, that 6-week run he had the year before, I'm like, there's no way they're not going to at least make him a top 12 to tight end. And they just never threw to him. Now Everett's gone, so I see it. And, guys like Evan Silva loves him. Evan Silva's like, this is the year that he was supposed to have last year. So I get it. And I do have Higbee because I do like the offense a lot. I think it's a really undervalued offense. I feel like Cooper Kupp and Woods and all those guys are kind of going 4th, 5th, 6th round. So I do like Higbee a lot. I was going to ask you what you think about Kmet, because in the DS Discord, there's been a lot of chat about Kmet as a tight end too, and the upside that he might have this year.
I think upside is there, but you don't know what kind of room he has to succeed. I think a couple of things on Higbee. One is when he broke out 2 years ago, I mean, he was the bomb. It was like, it's undeniable. We know now this guy is out of the bag. This guy is good. And he had a monster fantasy playoff that year for the Rams. Just the best. I remember sitting right where I am in this basement. I have a bar behind me, sitting at this bar, and just one of these weeks we should just be at the bar.
That's right. Let's do it.
You and I.
Yep.
So watching Higbee against Dallas in a game, Gurley might have had 3 touchdowns in that game, and every play was to Higbee. It was just like that was a chef's kiss kind of game. So I think there is that, and I don't think this is not something I would put any stock into, but today on my WGR show, we talked about Matthew Stafford, did a little trivia game where he had to name his top 10 receivers, like most catches in his career, and a bunch were tight ends, most of all Brandon Pettigrew. Ebron was on that list. Who was the guy from the Rams? Scheffler from Denver, I should say.
Yes.
And there might have been one more. Like, there were tight ends up and down that list. The Lions had a big – Pettigrew was drafted in the same first round as Stafford. So I don't know. Don't say that I'm telling you this matters. And it has nothing to do with this draft. But Stafford has liked his tight ends.
Yes, he has. And I just, for sure. And he can sling it. And, so I'm just kind of sour on Higbee. No specific reason other than the fact that he burned me a ton last year. But I've gone back to him a little bit. I wish he wasn't going as high as he was last year. I mean, he's back up in the 6th, 7th round again because people see it. People get it. So I'm going to have a bunch of Higbee again if I don't go tight end early. I'm huge on Hockenson this year, so every time I get a chance to take him in the 3rd or 4th, I do. So I don't have a ton of Higbee, or as much as I did last year. But yeah, I definitely like Higbee.
Good. I think he has his fans.
Yes.
Well, thank you for going over this with me. I sort of like this more than I did. Now,
no, I like it.
you wanted to talk about, but we're running late here, and I'm sorry for that because I'm talking a lot and all that fish talk at the beginning about the sharks and the deep end and the perch took up some
Yeah.
time. But you're thinking about one of the shows we did with Jay Moyer,
Yes.
and as the fantasy draft season continues, you're just seeing more and more opinions getting, I don't know, like sort of built up or what? Like you're thinking about what he said about Michael Carter? Because he made a very interesting and impressive and convincing case about Michael Carter before the draft.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's kind of why one of the things that I wanted to build the podcast on was not just about what we're saying, but bringing on the people that we bring on, because we want everyone to hear the people that we trust, right? The people that we rely on to help draft our teams. And I think like Jay Moyer, we finally got him on the show, and I've been following him for years. And it's a situation where just find someone. So like to me, I found Jay because he is a running back evaluator. He watches all the film of all the running backs, and he's just been so good over the years at making those calls. This running back's going to be good. This running back's not so good. This running back fits this system. And I just remember him coming on, loving Michael Carter pre-NFL draft, right? Then he gets drafted to the Jets. Jets take him, and he fits the scheme perfectly. What do you know? So that raises Michael Carter. So early on in the process, I'm drafting Carter when he's going in the 9th round. Why? Because I'm trusting the process. I'm trusting the guys that I rely on, like Jay Moyer, for that Michael Carter information. And now information's coming out of camp. Oh, Michael Carter's the best receiving running back on that team. Michael Carter's probably going to be the number 1 running back. And all along, me not knowing anything about Michael Carter and just trusting my guy, and now you see that guy is rising in drafts. And to kind of go on the opposite of that is like Travis Etienne. He doesn't love Etienne, right? Jay Moyer specifically doesn't. He doesn't like him at all, and he'll be the first one to tell you. So in a lot of drafts, I'm not taking Etienne because I don't have a firm grasp on his role there. I don't know. Is he going to be a receiver? Is he going to be a running back? Are they going to be, what are they going to do with him, right? And so I just lean on the guys that I trust to say, you know what? I don't think Etienne is as good as even people think he is. So I've been fading him a lot, and there's been some talk in the Discord about is he going at value and all that stuff. There's a spot for Etienne for me if he falls into like the 6th, 7th round, which he has it. I'll take a shot at him just to get some exposure. But I think people need to find people that they trust, and then sometimes just trust them to make that evaluation for them to help them along, because you can't possibly have you're not going to be right on every single guy. Of course, you're going to miss on picks. But you just got to find a foundation, find a base of people that you trust to kind of help you walk you through the process.
Well, that's very interesting, and I remember that fondly. I said, "Who's your number 1?" Jay Moyer. Who's your number 1? Etienne, Harris, or Williams? Like Carter. And that was such a cool moment. Like, actually, none of them. And
right.
Serves me right for assuming, but I think that's all really fine. But I think the ultimate thing is to know, and you can look at the teams themselves, all the millions of dollars they put into that research.
Yeah.
There's a limit to how much you can know. You're only predicting the odds to a point. When you play craps, 8 is more likely to come in than 9, 9 than 10, and so on. But you can't ever know. And I think what this all amounts to is somewhat philosophically the same thing. There's a limit to the knowledge you can really possess and when you make your predictions. So Michael Carter is a very cool and smart example because there was a very convincing case. Like, he does this with his feet. Javonte Williams, I follow people. Mario Puig, I've mentioned him before. He is super negative toward Javonte Williams, and it seems like everybody else I read is positive. And I think about that every day. We should talk to Mario at some point if you want, because there's a big brain. So here's Jay Moyer. He's like, Carter. Yes, I accept this. I believe you. I agree. Then you had Mike Clay come out last week, and I interacted, and so did Jared with Mike about this. Like, running backs drafted where Carter was drafted, look out.
Yep.
And they go too early is too much hype. They go too early in redraft, to sort of paraphrase, and just look out. You could probably get better value in someone else. It's not a rookie where this hype thing sort of happens. Now, I do think, and I interacted with Mike as well, that I think teams are probably smarter. They should be by now, and they would push running backs down a little bit. So maybe where Carter went is optimal, where you have the Jets on the third day, they can pay them less.
Yeah.
Expectations, even the subterfuge that goes on in the league, all of it can amount to a better result for the Jets. It is the Jets. Are we supposed to trust the Jets? Are we supposed to trust big brains like Jay and Mike Clay and Mario? Like, I would never trust an NFL team, even the smart ones, over the collective right there. But I do think there's a case for Carter. And the case is the Jets knew they could wait. They drafted early in the round. It's the first thing in the morning, and they were able to get him, and there's nobody else at the position where they have an investment. Now, if, say, Melvin Gordon gets cut,
sure,
then teams like the Jets and the Dolphins or Atlanta could move in, and they could have free Melvin Gordon. They could think the way that teams tend to think, which is, oh, well, he scored touchdowns, so he's good, and he made this money, so he's good, and really not see the same sort of, I don't know, the same things. I don't want to say that scouts don't see the things that the fantasy guys do, but it does seem that way sometimes, where they could have different priorities, where they could have an owner be like, I watched Melvin Gordon on TV. He's good. I want to go with him. But what do you have in Carter? You have an opportunity. You have a relatively affordable fantasy price, and you have talent, and that amounts to something.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not taking a victory lap even at this point on Carter. I'm just kind of pointing that to the fact that, a guy that I trust, Jay Moyer, put me onto Michael Carter, and he gets drafted to a team. He fits the scheme. And in fantasy, which is really all I care about, is the guy comes out and he's being drafted in the 9th round. So I'm hitting him early in fantasy season, 9th round. I was creeping up, Now he's going in the 6th round. It's like, well, now it's like, do I even want to take him in the 6th round because I've got so many 9th round pieces of him? But it's just trusting the guys. Trey Sermon's another example, right? He's a guy that Jay Moore liked, and there was another.
Matt Waldman was big on Sermon.
Yes, Matt Waldman, huge on Trey Sermon. I trust Matt Waldman also. Jay Moyer trusts Matt Waldman. That's another guy I was hitting early. 9th round, 8th round, 9th round. Now he's creeped up into the 6th round also. So it's like it's getting guys that you trust to put you in positions to take guys of value so that when they creep up later on, I mean, they might both bust, who knows, but at least they busted at the 9th round price tag, not a 6th round price tag. And it's just those little edges that you can get. And those are the type of people that we want to bring on the show. And we're going to bring more of them and to kind of give you an edge on certain stuff like that.
Yeah, that's good. And you want to diversify. So ultimately, if you're going to have 50% or some percent of teams with Sermon or Carter on it, you want that, of course, to be at the lower price. And so that's really, I think, ultimately what this is, because we still don't know yet who's going to do what. And
exactly.
Those teams, those players, every team, every player, you have to wonder what the role is and what all the luck and randomness of the season will lead to.
Yes.
The Jets are a really interesting team to talk about. With the combination of Moore, the rookie, Mims, the ex-rookie, Davis in free agency, Crowder, the holdover, Wilson, the number 2 overall pick that's going to start that nobody liked as the number 2. It's just, there's a lot of different scenarios with them. There's value in the Jets, I think, but that's for next time.
Yeah. I like
All right.
it.
Adam, I'm exhausted.
I know that was fun. We made a couple picks. It was
all
great.
Those picks. It was 3 picks. Holy cow! I got to go see who I picked.
That's right. You forgot already.
Check that out. All right, so we'll be back next week with another episode. Thanks. You can follow the Deep End FF1. Draft Sharks helps us go. They power the show, so definitely follow Jared and Matt Schauf and those guys at Draft Sharks. Adam Krautwurst, Mike Shope, Shope Talk, WGR during the week. You can find me there, and I'm ready for a fantasy football conversation at all times.
All times.
So there it is. Thanks for watching tonight. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.